guys and girls. Amazing how these 10 years has passed. Well, before we get to EvalAgenda, if we walk down the memory lane, at first there were two, Adam and Eve of Eval Partners. There was the IOCE, which is the International Organization on Cooperation and Evaluation, and there was UNEC, which is the United Nations group. And basically, I think the novelty that allowed Eval Partners to hit the road running was that for the first time, the civil society side, represented by IOCE, and the United Nations side, represented by UNEC, were working together. And the two suddenly became many. I mean, these are just a few of the Eval Partners crowd. So in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna tell you or try to tell you their story. But just in that festive mood, maybe Nicola, can we play that famous video of 2 minutes and watch it till the end, guys?
Yatin, can you screen the video, please?
So it's not a dancing lesson. Be dancing in our room. Okay, I think you got the story. I think maybe we can stop it. It's not a coincidence that I showed you this video, because I remember maybe the very first meeting we had when planning for Eval Partners. I don't recall if it was Marco Segone or Tessie Katsambas or a combination of both. Who kind of put this video and really pulled us to dance. And the spirit of Eval Partners, in a sense, is this. I mean, as usual, it's always difficult to start. You're shy, etc. But when you see that other people are dancing, you kind of throw away your preconceptions. You join dance, and ultimately it becomes fun. So, in a sense, that was how Eval Partners started. Now, in terms, of, let's say, nitty-gritties, the thinking around Eval Partners was taking place in and around 2011 and 2012, but like a foundation moment was the first global evaluation forum that was held in Chiang Mai in Thailand, and that led to the Chiang Mai Declaration. And in this declaration, we kind of declare a new alliance with equity and social justice as central values, and founded on shared principle of partnership, innovation, inclusivity, human rights, and common goals. So that was done, and yeah, you could see that some of us here today are still somehow around. But yeah, from there onwards, let's say the deep thinking around Eval Partners can be described in that conceptual model. So basically, the whole approach along which Eval Partners is built is across this conceptual model. So, and in a sense, it acknowledges that for national evaluation systems and national evaluation capacity and evaluation at large to become streamlined and institutionalized, we need to work at 3 or 4 different levels. The first one is the individual level through skills, knowledge, experience. The other level would be the institutional level through policies, procedures, frameworks. But whether it's the individual or the institution, they can only thrive and grow if the enabling environment at the same time is conducive in terms of policies, legislations, power relations, social norms, etc. And Eval Partners gives a close attention to, the specific context of each country and to country leadership and ownership, and this forum and everything that the VOPEs do in and around the world is basically geared toward that model. On the other hand, I mean, all of this would be relatively useless if there wasn't demand and there wasn't supply. And in a sense, this is how Eval Partners was conceived. And by the way, that slide, we still reuse it from Chiang Mai until now with few tweaks and stuff. So we had the organization, but we needed some kind of bold ideas to sustain the momentum. In 2013, 2014, if you remember, there was the Millennium Development Goals. And those of you who have been there remember that it was the rich countries who kind of put targets for the poor countries, and the MDGs had their own tweaks. And the SDGs were in preparation, the famous 17 goals that constitute our staple now. Now, with the complementarities between everybody that I've shown, we had a crazy dream. I mean, what about declaring 2015 the International Year for Evaluation? And the main compelling reason was that we were crossing from MDGs to SDGs without looking back, without drawing lessons learned, without taking stock of what worked and what not. So at that point, evaluation was so timely. So, and as crazy as it was, here it is in front of you, 19th December 2014, the United Nations GA in person with all its constituency declared 2015 International Year for Evaluation. I mean, such a declaration has less value unless it's really accompanied by enabling activities. And that very resolution puts a high emphasis on national evaluation systems, national evaluation capacity, etc. So that was a foundation. And we had the resolution, we had the Eval year. Now we needed an agenda. So again, we went into another crazy adventure. We ran a truly global consultation, and I'll show you how truly global it was. Basically, reflecting on the 4 pillars that I showed you. So demand, let's say individual capacity, institutional capacity, enabling environment, and the interlinkages between these 3 levels. And we had an Eval torch. So that's one of the forgotten logos, Eval Partners, which is the Eval year, and it has its torch. And trust me, it was a torch. I think the first time the torch was lit, and some maybe attendees in the room can confirm, was in India. And after that, so in terms of structure, global live webinar, then 8 weeks online discussion. That was a big thing back then because there wasn't COVID and Zoom and Teams and everything that became staple now. But then 85, Asela would tell me 92 events around the globe, during which the Eval torch was passed all the way until the November 2015, when we met in Kathmandu to take stock. So that shows you the map of the different events that took place in North America, Latin America, Asia, Europe, and a bit everywhere. And that was the beautiful people in Kathmandu. We were young, we were maybe slimmer, and we had less white hair, but that was it. So by the end of 2015, we had the EvalAgenda 2020 ready. Why did we call it EvalAgenda 2020? To distinguish it between Agenda 2030, which is the rollout of the SDGs on one hand. On the second hand, because we gave ourselves a 5-year time to see, to start putting things in motion. This beautiful wheel would put positive outcomes, including SDGs at the center, would speak about the 3 dimensions and the interlinkages that I highlighted, but also shows that evaluation use, commissioner use, resource mobilization, professionalization, systems, etc. All of these are kind of prerequisites to achieve EvalAgenda. And if in hindsight, now that I'm not there in the bath anymore, I would see ourselves like this: a very big fish with a tiny fishing rod, but ultimately we could get there. We used the metaphor of the Eval apple, and realistically, what was in the global evaluation agenda goes way beyond what IOCE can do alone, or what UNEC can do alone, or what even Eval Partners can do alone. It's really wide encompassing and had a lot of action. But if you ask me over the past 5 years, what was the bite of the Eval apple, I will tell you that we managed to conceptualize, and you can see their concepts in the global agenda if you go back to it, 5 networks that kind of took the Eval world by storm, and that became kind of essential milestones as if they've been here forever, and essential key players that gave really a new boost and a new dynamic to the work. But obviously, there are so many apples and so many bites. One of the key issues in the global evaluation agenda is this: evaluation has not yet reached its full potential. And it's clearly saying that despite its success and growing acceptance in many parts of the world, evaluation has not yet been embraced as widely as it should be. And I guess it stands true as we speak today in 2022. In many organizations and countries, there is adequate appreciation of what evaluation is, how it differs from policy research, from performance measurements, from performance auditing, etc., etc., etc. So, and there were plenty of, and if you continue reading in the global evaluation agenda, you'll see that the commitment of the evaluation community between the perceived utility and the actual use of evaluation is the key driver. And the global evaluation agenda contains a lot of stuff that were not articulated. My favorite one, I just selected two for you. State of the evaluation report. Just like you do a human rights index and the freedom of press and development and competitiveness and foreign direct investments, what about the state of evaluation in every country, highlighting what's happening and what needs to be done? This is, for example, one of the ideas that were not taken on board. Another idea was a South-to-South cooperation to review evaluation systems in light of the state of the evaluation report. I don't have much time left, but let me finish on three key messages. One of them is that the Eval boat needs rebalancing. That's probably one of my favorite slides. So if you put the big growers, those who have resources and knowledge and access and what have you on one side, and those who are not as well endowed as the others on the other side, obviously your boat will keep turning in circles. I don't say that the Eval boat has been turning in circles. There were massive achievements over the last 5 years, but do I say we're sailing at full speed toward destination? I think when Taruna would lead you into the discussions, you might want to reflect on that aspect. The other one is spreading the Eval word. Again, looking back at these 10 years, we basically worked within what's commonly called the safe space. We were talking to each other, so practitioners, commissioners, officers within the system, parliamentarians, etc. But that circle did not break yet to the outside world. The Elon Musks, the Greta Thunbergs, the equity people, the what have you. So there's plenty of potential stakeholders out there. All of them could help us add bites to the Eval apple, and we need to reach out for them. And trust me, if you the world has changed so much since 2016. Just look at how this conference is being held. Just reflect at the past 2 years and just try together with me and with Taruna in the upcoming sessions, imagine how it would be looking like in the next 5 years and where do we position evaluation over there. Last but not least, the added value of the global evaluation agenda is that it wasn't crafted with smart indicators and with achievable targets and with what have you. Basically, because our thinking was a bit like Martin Luther King. When Martin Luther King stood up and said, I have a dream, at a time where African Americans were not allowed to sit in the same bus compartment to go in the same school or university in the USA. The dream of Martin Luther King was not for them to sit next to each other. It was so wide encompassing that within 40 years, there was 40 years after, there was an African American president at the White House. So let's dream like Martin Luther King. Let's keep our feet on the ground. Let's continue working together, and sky is the limit. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ziad, as always, for very thought-provoking and also an entertaining story. I'm going to hand over to our next speaker, which is an independent evaluation consultant and EES board member, Taruna Gupta. Taruna is currently also busy with an exercise to take stock of this process that that Ziad has described, and the views that will be shared today by the Asian Pacific region will be feeding into this process. So I'm now handing over to Taruna to tell us about the EvalAgenda stock taking and to facilitate the breakaway. Over to you, Taruna.
Thank you, Nicola, and thank you, Ziad. It's always a different kind of pressure to speak after Ziad, but I will try to make this session very engaging. But I hope that all of you have taken on board a lot of what Ziad has said today, because it frames the session very well. Next slide, please. Okay, so I just thought I'm just going to have one slide today to show you, and this is about this process. So Ziad has explained to you how EvalAgenda 2020 came about. And this slide is explaining how EvalAgenda 2030 is going to be developed. So there's about 4 main steps. There is a task force for EvalAgenda that's been created, and they are guiding this process. So we are currently here on step 1, where we're conducting the stock taking exercise. So I have been contracted with Adeline Sibanda, and she and I will be looking at taking opinions. We're going to be doing e-consultations, and this is one of the first large consultations being taking place in the Asia region. Following this, there will be further stakeholder engagement and the drafting of the new agenda, which will then consequently be disseminated. So some very standard steps there, but I thought it's important that you know what the process is. So if we go to the next slide, please. Great. So so we are now going to have breakout rooms for 20 minutes. And we request that you identify someone who's going to report back. We're going to share in the chat right now a Google sheet that we would like you to complete. So it's like a workbook which has tables. So group 1 will deal with question 1, group 2, question 2, group 3, 3, and group 4, 4. There's instructions in the workbook for completing, and myself, Nicola, Azela, and the production team will be moving within the groups. So if you have questions or anything, you can ask us, and we will guide you through them, through the discussion. One thing I want to encourage you to do is, if you find that your group doesn't know as much about EvalAgenda, just delete the table or under the exercise table for your group, just make recommendations for what you want to see EvalAgenda 2030 to do. So if you see your group hasn't been involved in the past EvalAgenda 2020 implementation and they can't do the specified exercise, don't waste your time, just move on and start capturing what your future recommendations are for 2030, because the point of these e-consultations is to reach evaluators like yourselves, and every one of your opinion does matter to us. And your attendance to this session is very important to us. So if you can input into that document, we'd really appreciate it. And it is your way of contributing to shaping EvalAgenda 2030. So we hope that you will be candid, you'll be honest with your reflections. And if you've seen that, you know, any sort of challenges you've had with the previous version, please let us know. Just capture everything in your discussion today, and that can be fed into the next process. If Yatin, if that's okay, if anyone has any questions, like we said, we'll be moving around. Yatin can now move you into your breakout sessions, please. So colleagues, I hope you found the exercise useful. And we're just going to have about 2 minutes reporting back time. Just to let you know that we will cut you off after 2 minutes because we have 3 groups that are going to report back to us. So we don't mean to be rude, but just, you know, so that we capture the essential details. So if someone from group 1 can please report back.
Okay, I will just share briefly what we've discussed in our group. Overall, we discussed the 4 pillars of the EvalAgenda: an enabling environment, institutional capacity building, individual capacity building, and the interlinkages. And we thought that most progress were made really in the enabling environment dimension and the individual and institutional capacity building. but that more progress can be made under partnerships and interlinkages, although we have highlighted some examples of partnerships. Under the enabling environment, some of the examples, I'm just going to raise it now quickly. There was a SDG tracking platform in Mongolia dedicated to national policy to measure and a national policy to measure development programs. Also in India, the DMEO is doing a lot around national evaluation policy development and measuring SDG goals. In terms of institutional capacity, we've spoken about in Philippines, the government has established a network to discuss government evaluations and a network that convene academic centers as well. And I think that's more or less the essence of our group discussion. I'm just thinking what else. There was also, when we spoke about India, there's a good example of partnership with donors. So with donors and governments are working together to create stronger interlinkages for evaluation. I don't know if my group wants to add anything.
Thank you, Nicola. Those are really, it's really striking what you just said, because it just captures all the work that's been done in the APEA region, which we really do appreciate. So colleagues, thank you for inputting into that. And when we do spotlight or when we do talk about this, we'll be sure to capture those findings. Yatin, if you can just focus on group 3 now, because group 2 was disbanded.
Yes.
And I think it was, if someone from group 3 can please speak to the points that you discussed. And just to introduce the question, group 3 was talking about this notion of collective action and isolated action. So what they were talking about was EvalAgenda, were the activities done in isolation? So was professionalization just done by one VOPE, or was it done together as a region and then fed into at a global level to get more sort of support for it? So what they had to do was talk about collective actions that have been done at the region and some examples of isolated actions, so that we can judge in the stock taking what's working to move things forward. I'll pass it to group 3, please.
Yes,
Yes, please go ahead, Tashi. Please go ahead.
We have 4 examples in the collective action. For an example, the M&E career development mentorship for young and emerging evaluators, which was a collaborative initiative amongst many organizations such as APEA, ECOE, SLAVA, and Global Evaluate Network has been proven very successful, and this is one example of collective action. Then second, awareness raising among about the role and importance of evaluation in public policy, which is collected by the globally eval community. It's one example. Then third, government systems and capacity building by development monitoring and evaluation office in India is also one example of a collaborative approach in this case. APEA conference and Eval Face is one good example of collaboration among Eval network across globe. So this is also one good example. And when it comes to isolated action, we found it some institutional capacity building. For an example, the ECO is doing all it alone. It's done by one institute, so there's not much of collaboration, and the same is. It's same case in some of the other VOPs as well. And the second, educational institutions providing capacity building courses. So this is also one man show in when it comes to building the capacities of the M&E enthusiasts. Then various job opportunities in the field of evaluation. So the different VOPs or different institutions have their own job portals. So we are thinking that if there is a sort of a one-stop portal to share M&E opportunities, it will be great help both for the institution and the professionals like all of us. And some scholarships and fellowships in M&E are restricted for specific regions in nationals. So this is also one example of isolated action. Thank you.
Thank you, Tashi. That's some really, really great reflections, and really appreciate the work done by your group on this. If I can please invite group 4 to speak.
We have only 1 minute left.
Yeah. Yatin, if you can please, your screen has a lot of black spots, but if someone from group 4 can please just raise your hand so we know to unmute you. Azela or Fazila, I'm sorry to pick on you.
Group 4, maybe I can quickly summarize a few points. One is that from Uganda, actually, there was this point about parliamentarians, engaging parliamentarians to promote evaluation, and that Uganda has evaluation unit within the parliament, actually, and also how to use parliamentarians for demand and use of evaluation, that was discussed. And then from South Africa, actually, Fazila mentioned about young and emerging evaluators, how it was emerged and also established in different regions, and became a regional network as well. And also how capacity building of young and emerging evaluators are important. At the same time, we had a discussion about whether the WOPES have taken this, young and emerging evaluators program and included them in their own program. So we don't see it is the case now. So in the next evaluation agenda, global evaluation agenda, that should be a priority. So WOPES should take it as key component of their program. Capacity building of young and emerging evaluators, so promotion of young and emerging evaluators. That is main point we discuss. At the same time, how to take young and emerging evaluators program as complementary within the country and for the WOPE. That is also discussed and should be addressed in the next evaluation agenda. And the last point we discussed was about, actually from Bhutan, it came still most of the countries, monitoring is the biggest part, not evaluation. So how do we address this? Monitoring, although it is, said monitoring and evaluation, it is not equal at all. We used to say this, and today also we discussed this. But how to enlarge the E part against M part, so that should be addressed in the next global evaluation agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Zela, and thank you all to the participants. Really appreciate your reflections, because this is an hour session. Nicola is going to close, but I'm just going to pop my email in the chat, and if any of you have any other reflections or feedback on this session, please feel free to email me. But thank you so very much for your input. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Taruna. I would just like to express my sincere thanks to the excellent organizing committee for pulling this together. Also to Ziad for his formidable keynote presentation. As always, he didn't disappoint. And also to Taruna, thank you for the efforts in taking on this facilitation and for the rich discussions that surfaced. I think it's clear from the conversation that we definitely need a bit more time to discuss this. So hopefully there will be a few extra sessions this year where you can participate, and we will keep you posted. I have this picture of the dancing guy in my head. So on that note, I would like to say thank you for dancing with us today. Thanks for celebrating the kickoff of the 10 years together celebration, and keep following the action on the growth and the future of the Eval agenda. Thanks for joining us.